All right. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Whiskey Crusaders tonight. Very excited, of course, to be back here. Now it's in the deep, frigid cold here, possibly getting some lovely snow, which would be super awesome for everybody. Is this about light whiskey? No, it's not about light whiskey, Larry, but thanks you for showing up to the show, of course. Of course, we're very lucky enough to have Alex Shaw joining us here with this whiskey weight loss. So what the fuck is the whiskey weight loss?
That is a great question, Matt, and it's one that I get asked fairly frequently. So to answer it completely, it's best actually that I take a step back and go, what is the problem that most people have when they drink whiskey and they want to lose weight? Well, typically, when someone wants to go on a weight loss journey, they will do a restriction-based diet, right?
Mhm.
It'll be no carbs or nothing processed or no meat if they go vegetarian or vegan and they want to become particularly insufferable.
Yeah, sounds
They
awesome.
do something that involves giving up a bunch of stuff.
Right.
And it works typically. People lose 10, 20, 30, 50 pounds. But then
Sure.
they realize that's a really sucky way to live.
Right.
So then what happens is they go, well, I kind of liked it back when I was drinking and eating normal food and able to join in at social occasions.
Yes.
So I lost the weight. I'm good. Let's go back. And what happens? What do we see over and over again in friends and family? The weight starts coming back on and
Mhm.
on and on until eventually they're back where they started. And oftentimes they actually overshoot and end up worse.
Yes, which is so great for everyone, obviously. Hey, Sam, what you
Everyone,
can see that?
everyone loves that. Everyone loves
Yeah.
dieting for no reason and then gaining even more weight.
Yeah.
So I still saw this happen in friends and family members and wanted to kind of leverage my expertise in the fitness area. I mean, I've been in fitness at this point, shoot, I don't know, 12 years, something like
Mhm.
that.
Long
A,
time.
a decent chunk of time. And I was kind of new into whiskey during COVID. Like a lot of people, I think I picked up the hobby when there
Sure.
was nothing to do but sit around and day drink. And I
Sure.
saw this potential marriage of two things that I was really passionate about. One being weight loss, fitness, helping people get healthier into better shape, all that good stuff. And then I, wanted to combine that with my whiskey drinking passion because I
Okay.
saw a lot of guys, when I would meet them at liquor drops, at whiskey
Mhm.
events, and we would have these conversations of, oh, I need to get in better shape, but like, I don't want to give up alcohol. I don't want to give up,
Sure.
just like the events that you do at the Whiskey Castle, right?
Yeah, that would suck to
Those are
give those up.
fun.
A lot of
So whiskey weight loss was born out of the idea of helping people to lose weight, get in better shape, improve their health, improve their confidence, all that kind of stuff without having to give up whiskey in the process.
okay. That is very important, I think, for pretty much everyone that's in this chat, for sure. And then we'll see this later as well. So, yes, exactly. Richard, have two friends who've done this. And Burban said, "This is the guy who did weird things to my buddy Brad's diet." Okay. That's good. Well, hopefully it worked, Ben. All
It's fun.
right.
It's kind of cool when people have heard of the brand.
Yeah, that's great. Because, I mean, this, we have an international audience too. So, this is pretty fantastic. People from all over the world tuning in. And so, this is fantastic. Texas, New York, and other parts of the, Canada, whatever. I know it sounds out
Very
in
cool.
California. So, lots of
Very
fun
cool.
stuff. So, I guess
But
we
yeah,
should pour something while we get into this topic. What do you want to
let's do it.
start with for a pour?
Well, I poured a little bit of a foolproof. I am a high
Perfect.
proof wheated bourbon drinker, so that's a
What's
go-to
going
for me. I know a lot of people have a preference over antique and foolproof, and I'm probably in the foolproof
Hey, depends on the
crowd.
day.
Say again.
Depends on the day, depends on the pick.
Facts. The pick goes a long way to making
Yeah,
a
'cause this
difference.
is a really nice goody pick from 2019.
Nice.
So,
I don't know about you, Matt. Have you ever compared like specs and total wine picks?
yes, I find that specs are significantly better than Total Wine almost every time.
I'm glad you said that because I was thinking the exact same thing. Whoever's on Total Wine's like pick team needs to find a
Well,
new
they
one.
don't care. They just say to the distillery, "Hey, can I have a single barrel?" And they're like, "Sure, here's some crap."
No,
Whereas
yeah,
Specs actually goes and picks theirs, so they give a crap what they're getting. Whereas Total Wine's like, "We're just glad we have a single barrel." So
fair enough. That makes a lot of sense because I'm like I said, I'm a big fan of like high proof wheated stuff, and I grabbed an old
yeah,
elk pick, like straight wheat whiskey, not a wheated
nice.
bourbon. And I've never had a bad one until I tried the Total Wine pick, and it was absolutely dog shit and tasted like young oak, which is really hard to do in like a 6-year-old wheat.
Gross.
Yeah, it was not pleasant. But
Yeah, I pretty much avoid all of their picks permanently.
yeah, I've learned to, for sure. One thing I did want to say about, the whole whiskey and weight loss thing, I would love to share with people that whiskey facilitates and helps with weight loss. I would love to be able to say that, but I would be lying. Whiskey is a poison. It just tastes really good, and it tends to bring people together over a common interest.
Yes,
So that's where, my job as a coach is really to help people balance the, intake of whiskey, all of the social stuff with, the weight loss side of things. Like a lot of people will say everything in moderation.
Sure.
And I get that to a point, but conceptually, I very much disagree with it. Instead, I believe in something what's called like the more like the 90-10 approach.
Okay.
90% of the time, we eat things that we enjoy, but we eat primarily for fuel, for nutrition, right? That might be steak and baked potatoes and asparagus, right? Something that most people can agree is a solid meal and they would enjoy that.
Sure.
Whatever it is, we optimize 90% of nutrition. And that allows you to have a lot of fun with the 10%.
Yeah, absolutely.
As opposed to a little bit of everything and not really fully enjoying the good stuff and not really fully getting the results you want because you're not leaning hard enough into the nutrition side of things. Instead, let's optimize the crap out of your nutrition and exercise and lifestyle. And that way, if, like me, you end up outside a liquor store at 6 a.m. and you want to get drunk before noon, you can do that. And it's totally fine.
That works. Let's see. So we got Andy's birthday tonight. He's finishing some Buna 48. Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it. Sounds like a fantastic evening there.
Congrats, Andy.
There we go. Let's see. Today I'm doing Glenn Farkless 25 and a 35 year. That doesn't suck. Agree, Pizza Warlord. Yeah, Total Wine does mediocre. Only good you've had us in the podcast for 12 year. Agree, Ben Demon Hunter. How is whiskey poison? Doctors used to prescribe it. Well, they used to prescribe all sorts of horrible things. They used to prescribe cigarettes for a while. I mean, yes, alcohol is poison. It also makes oil and other things as well, depending on the form of the alcohol you're using. But it's a delicious poison.
It is a delicious poison. And fun fact, and I truly believe this, that there's some they always say correlation doesn't equal causation. But I like to think it does when it benefits my lifestyle. People found that actually they are generally healthier and happier with a low to moderate alcohol intake.
I would probably agree with that. That's probably a good point.
And I think, physiologically, they try to, connect it to, alcohol relaxes you, and that's the good thing about it. I don't tend to agree because that would encourage drinking alone on a Tuesday afternoon, and I don't think that's good for anyone. Instead, what I think it's the social aspects. Like, humans are social creatures. We like hanging out with people. Like, this is fun for you and I. We just get to chat and drink. And I think alcohol tends to bring people together. Sometimes too much alcohol pushes people apart, and that's a separate conversation.
Yes, and that's a different thing we don't want to deal with.
No, we don't want to deal with that. So, but no, I think a certain level of alcohol intake, assuming it's attached to social occasions, and the joy and happiness that comes with that, I think that's actually incredibly healthy.
Absolutely.
There is no, addiction issues.
Here, I see. Okay, so you're saying a doctor tells me to drink red wine to lower my blood pressure and it works. That's true. I think we're talking more in the sense of that, in general, alcohol is technically a poison. Not that it really is poison per se. It is and it isn't. It's like you said. It's the body doesn't naturally say, "Hey, that's great. I need to have that." Is I guess our point of it. It's not a food. You have to do something to it to make it become alcohol per se. It's not naturally growing. So it's one of those deals.
Yeah. And on that note too, red wine is one of the things that was kind of like in that correlational study. My counterpoint, my delicately posed counterpoint would be simply listening to your doctor and doing all of the things they say tends to be good for health and blood pressure anyway.
True.
And blood pressure is massively multifactorial, meaning that
the
red wine might be helping, but it might also be a change in lifestyle. It might be a change in work. It might be a reduction in stress in any aspect of your life that also coincides with, red wine drinking that might be causing that. So not to say it doesn't help, but it's also like there's a lot of other things that are playing probably a bigger role in blood pressure.
That's true as well. That's a good point on that. You're probably doing a lot of things besides just drinking. It doesn't hurt, obviously, you're drinking the red wine, but if you're also not eating crap anymore, it also helps a lot. So
yes, and I would postulate that not eating as much crap goes a lot longer way or a lot further to reducing blood pressure than having a glass of red wine. Which again, this is whiskey weight loss. I'm all about including alcohol.
Yeah,
in a healthy way.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Ben
an
said
important
too. You
distinction.
got a lady lived to 107 because she drank bourbon every day. It's probably not the only reason, although it definitely didn't hurt that she lived to 107 drinking it, but it probably wasn't the only reason.
Yeah, I know a lot of 35-year-old people who died from liver psoriasis.
Right.
So yeah, it's the dose makes the poison, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the key is moderation on this. You can't drink 5 a day. That's not going to end well.
No,
1 a day you should be fine, but anything else you should probably be careful.
Yes, and I think binge drinking also is an interesting topic. Generally, not something that I think should be done, but my drinking behavior falls more into I don't drink a whole lot during the week. You and I have talked about this. I'm in fitness. I've got to be rainbows and sunshine most of the time, and it's hard to do that when you're drinking every day during the week. So if anything, I kind of save up my drinks and then I will go and have 5, 6, 7 at, if we're hosting a dinner party or something like that.
Sure.
It's it probably falls closer into the binge drinking pattern, but I think the psychology behind it is the intention behind it is the big thing, right? If my 6 drinks are pouring samples from my bar for my house party guests, that's very different to shotgunning beers in the backyard at 2 a.m.
Yeah, by yourself.
By myself.
That's when it's an issue. Exactly. And I agree, because a lot of times when we go into pours, pours aren't even this big. And this is actually a larger because we're doing a stream. They're going to be, half that at most when you're hanging out with your friends. But you're also going to have, 15, 20 of them because you're just trying stuff. Not sitting there trying to get hammered. It's one thing. Now, if you're doing, 10 like this, then you have a problem.
That's a problem.
It's going to end very poorly for you.
That is very much a problem.
But yeah, as far as what daily, most days I don't have a full pour. A lot of days, if I do have a drink, it is either beer or wine, and it's not even that often. Most of it is done during our classes that we're teaching or live streams. Really and truly, it's where I drink the most. But yeah, we don't drink all that often because this is also work. So
definitely. Yeah, you got to remain professional to a degree. And if you end up sloppy, it tends to affect quality of definitely video production and then also coaching. No one wants to show up to a coaching call with their coach if their coach is dragging ass or physically intoxicated. That would be bad.
Yeah, because when I teach most of my classes, I don't even drink until the very last pour with them just to have something with them. But the master, I don't drink during them because, first of all, I've already had it. There's no reason to be drinking with them. And at that point in time, it's you should be on the top of your game, not sitting there just drinking to get trashed at your own place. It's not a great choice.
Not a great choice. Now, one thing I wanted to open up, Matt, is there a weight loss question that you or any of the viewers have? Because I'm an open book when it comes to this stuff.
That is a great question. So what made you get into, in general, into the fitness industry and into alcohol after that?
That's a good question. So initially I was an overweight kid, right? Okay. I was the classic chubby teenager who didn't know how to talk to girls, didn't know how to do sports, was pushed around kind of a lot, and really the gym, finding weightlifting and finding nutrition caused a massive shift in the trajectory of my personal life. So I started going to the gym. I was happier. I was more confident. All of a sudden I could talk to a girl without shitting my pants, basically, as a teenager, which is a pretty big deal. So that physical personal transformation for me, and I think it's the same for a lot of people in the fitness industry.
Sure.
I know a personal transformation really, lit this fire of wanting to help others experience the same thing.
Right.
And so that was, my entry into lifting weights and just following fitness as a passion. And then I kind of actually wanted to go to be a doctor. When I was growing up, I was like, I want to get into medicine.
Okay.
I realized two things. One, being a doctor is all about reactive medicine. None of it is preventative medicine.
Sure. Makes sense.
Which is a ass backwards way to do healthcare, but it is what it is, both in England and in the US. It's tough to do nationwide or even statewide preventative healthcare. It's just the way it is.
Sure. And a lot of it's personal responsibility. So
exactly. The second thing is that the way England works is that you can't just you can't buy your way into med school. Like over here, there are certain med schools that will come. It's like, if your money is green, you can come. Damn
straight.
That is not the way in England. If you are not a top 5% student, you are not getting in. Wow. And I was a reasonably intelligent high school kid, but I wasn't top 5%. I was probably in that like 5 to 10 range, academically speaking.
That's
so I was like, I was like, well, okay, maybe I'm having second thoughts about if this is what I want to do anyway. And it turns out I'm not actually smart enough to do it in school. So let's do something else. So that's when I started getting into personal fitness. I did internships and came over here. I was lucky enough to get a personal training internship at Cowboys Fit at the headquarters of the Cowboys. That was my first step into fitness. And I was really happy being an in-person personal trainer. Very busy. I was making a pretty good living for like a 25-year-old who, was just out of school. So I was really happy. But I was beginning to like wonder, because I was working 6 days a week. I remember there was one day where I was physically coaching and training people for 12 hours in that day.
That's a long day.
That was a long day. Not every day was like that.
Sure.
But there are some, and I'm like, this is tough. Like, I can't travel. My quality of life was very little. Making a ton of money for a 25-year-old, but, it was not a good quality of life. So that planted the seed of I need to do something where I can still help people. I can still enjoy what I do for a living, but also some semblance of work-life balance. Well, then COVID hit, and in-person personal training, where you are constantly within 6 feet of someone, really tough place to be during COVID. And that's really when online fitness became a thing.
Okay.
Right. So, and people took online fitness to mean two different things. One was basically an in-person personal trainer, but on Zoom, right? We call that virtual training. And now, like, it's very popular in the form of Peloton, right? Any of those classes, like, you jump onto a live class, there's an instructor in some other location, and it's a follow-along workout. That's great. That's not necessarily what I wanted to do.
Okay.
Instead, the other, version of online training is, like online coaching, meaning I'm basically someone's personal fitness concierge. Meaning someone comes to me and they want to lose 30 pounds. All right. We will work together until that goal is met. And it's kind of a deep dive on the nutrition side of things, evaluating what their current nutrition habits look like. Where are they doing well? Where are they doing badly? What structure makes sense? Like, I use this example all the time, Matt, of a real estate agent, a stay-at-home mom, and a 9-to-5 office worker lead incredibly different lives.
Oh, for sure.
The nutrition for those three lifestyles are not going to be the same. So it's about kind of figuring out what structure, what systems make sense for that individual as an individual. So there's that side of things, creating a workout plan that makes sense given their equipment availability, preferences, goals. Like, is someone trying to get super jacked, or is someone just trying to add a little bit of muscle and lose a bunch of fat and just become kind of leaner? Do they have performance goals? Are they trying to lift something? There's a lot of different aspects that go into that. And then bluntly, being someone's accountability partner is huge.
Yeah, like, that's true. No doubt.
That's the thing that, like, you can spend enough time on YouTube and figure out most of what I know.
Yeah.
The one thing you can't get on YouTube is someone checking in on you every day to be like, hey, did you do your workout?
Sure.
Hey, go make good choices today. And for a lot of people, that's kind of the missing ingredient that they need to make lasting habits. They kind of need that help getting the ball rolling. I love using analogies in coaching, and to me, weight loss is like trying to move a boulder.
Yeah, I agree
The
with that.
initial push requires a hell of a lot of effort, and it's a lot easier with another person pushing with you.
There's no doubt about that. That is for damn sure.
Once it gets rolling, well, then all you need to do is kind of keep it on the right path, right? It doesn't require as much effort. But that kind of activation energy to get everything moving, that requires a lot of help. So that's kind of what I do. I help people get the boulder rolling.
All right, we got a bunch of questions here. Let's see.
All right, hit me with some
Larry
questions.
said that he found someone that lives to 110, drink 3 Miller High Lifes a day and a scotch. Well, that's a hell of a person to say the least there. All right, they want to know what your 7-day diet generally looks like.
Ooh, okay. Well, let me walk you through a day in the life, and then I'll talk about how that changes from weekday to weekends. I think that's probably a better picture.
All right.
Generally in the morning, so there's a company called Sola, SOLA, and I'm a big fan of finding like food products or nutrition products that are very, very similar to what people normally eat, but the nutrition and the macros is way, way better.
Okay.
So something I have most weekdays, I grab one of their blueberry flavored bagels, which are fantastic. Little bit of strawberry cream cheese. I'll have one of those. I normally have 2 to 3 pieces of fruit throughout the day. So oranges, apples, bananas are a staple. Again, like low carb products are fantastic. So I'll have a couple of ham and cheese sandwiches, especially if it's a day where I'm very, very busy and I just don't have a lot of time to sit down and microwave something. Like sometimes I don't get a chance to even do that. So some of those, there's certain cereals that I like, granolas that I like, Greek yogurt, protein bars if I'm in a pinch, that kind of thing. Sometimes it's, we'll meal prep and there'll be, stuff that I can reheat. Oftentimes I'm eating sandwiches on the go. So that's what a kind of standardish day looks like. And then evening meals are just, we have a few recipes that we rotate through. I feel like a lot of people, whether they realize it or not, over the course of the month, they eat the same thing more or less, right? Some people have 10 recipes they cycle through. Some people have 20, but like everyone kind of has their staples. So like we have the same thing in our house. We just have a staple of recipes that we rotate through. The difference is like they've been chosen or optimized for nutrition a little bit. Like lasagna, like actually what I had for dinner this evening. Lasagna, great. Everyone loves it. Not the best, not the worst, but not the best when it comes to nutrition.
Sure.
So we have a recipe where we actually make lasagna bowls. And instead of like a very fat heavy, like white sauce, if you blend, let's see, Parmesan, low-fat cottage cheese, mozzarella, and something else. I don't know. It's on the recipe. But you blend it, and it makes a fantastic white sauce. So you've got, your tomato base, your lean ground beef, your pasta, microwave that, reheat it, and then you put a couple of dollops. Oh, and a lot of garlic. A lot of garlic goes in that white sauce.
Okay.
And it's pretty damn tasty. And it's significantly better than nutrition than normal lasagna.
Right.
So that's what my like 90% looks like.
Okay.
And then my 10%, like I normally get takeout on a Friday night because kind of, end of the work week and you just want to unwind. So what did we have? We had Chinese this week. No, we had pho. We thought about Chinese and got pho instead, Vietnamese. Previous to that was there's a local Thai place that we really, really like. Got some noodle-based stuff. We just kind of rotate through. Sometimes it's American food, sometimes it's not. And then weekends, sometimes we'll do a brunch. Love going out for brunch. I'm a big brunch person. And, just then we start, kind of planning meals ahead. Costco has these ground sirloin burgers that you can buy frozen. And they are like 330 calories, 27 grams of protein. You can buy low carb buns. I've got a Sweet Baby Raised as a no sugar added barbecue sauce that's fantastic. You can get reduced fat sliced cheese. Again, it all sounds like I'm you're eating Frankenfood, it tastes it tastes 10% different, but the
Okay.
nutrition is 50% better.
It's a big difference.
And when I was kind of talking about that 90-10
Yeah.
rule earlier, that's what I'm talking about. Like, that's what the 90% looks like.
Mhm.
Because I don't know about you, but like the bodybuilder diet of like chicken, white rice, and
Hate
broccoli
that shit.
3 times a day sounds miserable.
No, because you get sick of it. And it's just whether you do, what was the big one, Atkins or any of the carnivore, you can only eat so much meat. So you're just bored out of your mind and you're like craving carbs no matter what. Whether it's
Exactly.
mental or physical, either way, you have to eat them because they're delicious.
Yes, they are. They are, and that's where the 10% comes in. Like I have a thing with pizza, and we could actually explore the physiological, evolutionary reasons for this.
Mhm.
But like, I can't not eat an entire pizza. So if we go out for pizza, I'm eating the whole damn thing.
That's awesome.
So
Pizza is
but
delicious.
that's my 10%, right?
Yeah.
I've optimized the crap out of my 90%
Sure.
so that I can do that in the 10%. The other thing that helps a lot, this angle's not particularly flattering, but like I've been lifting for 17 years.
Yeah.
So for my frame and body fat percentage, I carry not a massive amount, but a decent amount of muscle mass. And
Sure.
when you carry more muscle mass, it boosts your metabolism and it gives you a bit more room for error.
It's
Also,
fair.
when you carry muscle mass, you're able to better process like high calorie, high carb food. So
Interesting.
someone who works out can handle a whole pizza better than someone who lives a very sedentary lifestyle.
Sure, and that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's a really good question by whoever asked it.
Yeah, that's
But
a great
that's
question.
basically what it is. Like it's a relatively normal diet that's modified in certain ways, and then we eat out probably 2, maybe 3 times a week. Making reasonable but not like boring choices when we eat out.
Totally makes sense. Okay, next question I get is how do you feel about GLP-1s and whiskey as that's me currently?
Excellent question. I didn't catch that. It was GLP-1s and
And whiskey.
I mean, I probably wouldn't mix them in a solution. I feel like that's a bad idea.
Okay.
But GLP-1s are really interesting. So I've had clients and friends use Ozempic to great effect.
Okay.
They've been fantastic. I think of it like this. Ozempic is a hammer. And if you were building a house, you probably might want a hammer. A hammer would be very useful. But you can't use a hammer to install glass.
No.
You probably shouldn't use a hammer to install plumbing. So it's a tool, right? If you only use Ozempic and don't change anything else, it's going to act just like one of those restriction-based fad diets where you're going to lose a bunch of weight, and then you're either going to come off Ozempic or like it just doesn't work like it used to, and the weight will eventually come back on. And in the process of losing a bunch of weight, you may also lose muscle mass, which lowers metabolism and your ability to handle a whole pizza, as we previously discussed.
Okay.
So instead, what I recommend is still like doing, the stuff that people recommend, like exercising and making smart diet choices. And whether you talk to a dietitian, a coach like me, honestly, I wouldn't recommend talking to a doctor because doctors know a lot about drugs. They don't know a lot about nutrition.
A lot of them, unfortunately, I think, way overprescribe drugs, and rather than getting off your ass and doing something about it.
Agreed. So I think Ozempic and GLP-1s are a fantastic tool. They are the first miracle drug that we actually have when it comes to weight loss, but they are still not a magic bullet. You still have to put in some of the work, but you will get, significant more movement if you use that stuff smartly. The other thing I would say is I think there's one demographic that really does benefit from Ozempic, and it's the genetically predisposed or people that had a horrible relationship with food growing up and have since kind of crossed into that, like, not just obese, but bordering on like morbidly obese. Those people benefit from Ozempic so much because it's the first thing that actually tips the scales back in their favor.
Which totally makes sense at that point. What percentage of body fat or BMI can usually be at to usually start something like that if they do want to go down that course?
That's a very good question, Matt, and I don't have a really good answer for you. I know that healthy BMI, I believe, is between like 18 and 25.
Something
I
like
think
something about right.
BMI is a very rudimentary measure. It works at a population level, but it is purely a factor of height and weight. So the 250-pound NFL linebacker who's 6 foot has the same BMI as the overweight, never worked out 6 foot guy living down the street.
True.
So BMI doesn't tell you a whole lot. Body fat is better. It's harder to estimate. One of the best ways to know kind of where you stand in terms of health is actually, especially if you're a guy, a little bit more complicated if you're a gal. But if you're a guy, your waist measurement tells you a lot about your health. So if you are, over, I'm gonna say over a 40-inch waist, it's probably something to consider. And if you're over a 50-inch waist, I think it's something that would be probably really beneficial. Now, those are just numbers, not a doctor.
Right.
Kind of just throwing that out there, but I think it would be a reasonable assumption that most other people in my position would get behind.
Now, if they don't want to do drugs because you're afraid of the terrifying possible long-term effects that we still don't know, obviously, what's a good place for someone to start? Working out or just walking. I mean, what's a good place that still wants to drink whiskey and just walk or jog, or is there some other easier thing they can do if you are a larger person?
So walking is probably the best, most accessible exercise in the world. And a good starting place for a lot of people is actually just understanding what they do right now. Meaning, get a Fitbit or just look at your phone, because a lot of phones, if you have your phone on you all the time, there's a big caveat, but it'll tell you. And if you're averaging less than 5,000 steps a day, first thing you should do is start averaging over 5,000. 5,000 is kind of this cutoff when you look at the scientific literature. Below 5,000 is associated with some not great health outcomes, right? Diabetes, heart problems, blood lipids, cholesterol, all that kind of stuff. So bare minimum, we should be aiming for 5,000. What I tell my clients is if we can get to 7,500, now it is kind of facilitating weight loss, right? Assuming our nutrition is in a decent spot, those extra steps will start helping the weight loss process. And if you want to overachieve and you want to, really get the most out of this, then push for that, elusive 10,000 number that a lot of people talk about. But I don't like the fact that it feels like 10,000 is given as this all or nothing number.
Sure, and
if you don't get 10,000, you're a terrible person. I average 8,000 steps a day. I'm not getting 10,000. Some days I do. Some days I get 8, and some days I get 6. But it's always over 5. It's always over 5, unless something really weird happens.
This is Alex Shaw there at Jose. I guess Jose he's an EMT, so he's asking this. Unfortunately, he says a lot of people don't do a damn thing about it till they call him, and they've never done a thing in their life. And that's not a good place to start. Even if you are bigger, you should know you're not. And this is just for me personally. You should go to the doctor at least once a year, if not twice a year. Get your blood work. If you've never had it done, get it done. You could be also skinny and have horrible blood work come back, because we've had friends that they happen to have a really fast metabolism, but they eat crap. So their cholesterol and triglycerides are out of control. So, you should have blood work done no matter what, whether you're drinking whiskey or not. But it's a good idea to do that and then drink whiskey on top of it. And then, especially if you have really great numbers come back, good. Another reason to have a good whiskey at that point in time.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, to speak to Jose's point, a lot of people don't realize how bad it's got until they're on death's door. And the prevention is so much easier than the cure. It's so much easier because we think of body fat as this passive thing that just kind of is attached to our body. But when we carry a lot of body fat, it is actively disrupting our health. It's putting stuff out into our body that, does lead to negative health outcomes. So if we can prevent the accumulation of that, then even better. Actually, I was showing this a client earlier, so I'll unfortunately expose your watchers to it. This is 1 pound of fat.
What is that?
That is 1 pound. You're going to get my ring light in there, but it is 1 pound of fat. There we go.
Lovely.
So when people are talking, a lot of people talk about, I only lost 5 pounds. You
Yeah.
lost 5 of these guys. That's pretty good going. I keep it in a plastic case because it doesn't feel nice and it accumulates
Looks
dust.
really nasty.
I don't like touching it, so I'm going to put it back.
Okay.
But that's just 1 pound. So and most people are carrying far too many of those.
Yeah, it's no doubt.
I don't say that as a shame thing. I just say that as hopefully someone hears that, does something, and potentially, adds 20 years to their life. Like, that would be kind of cool.
That would definitely be cool.
So I'm changing up, by the way. This was my most pleasant surprise of 2024.
All right.
It's the Heaven Hill wheated grain to glass.
I was surprised how good that one was. I tried that at Whiskey Cake earlier last year. I was like, oh, this is actually really shockingly good.
I know, because I don't really like a lot of the... like, McKenna's fine to me. Heaven Hill Bottle and Bond is meh. I like their larceny stuff, which should have, made me think that I would like this. Like, larceny barrel proof generally tends to hit nicely.
Makes sense.
But I just tried this, and I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And cool running. Good to see you there. Yeah, more muscle mass. You have more calories to burn. No, that's very true. Let's see what else we got here. Blend work every year. That's good. Yeah, under 40 inches. That's definitely good. Okay, so he wants to know, what do you think about fasting?
Ooh, another good question. Fasting. Okay, so if Ozempic is a hammer, fasting is like a coping saw. It's another tool, but maybe probably a little bit less universally relevant. I think fasting is fantastic for a couple things. One, if you want to lose a bunch of weight really quickly, not eating is a great way to do that. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it as a long-term strategy because that's how you starve to death. But short-term, if you need to lose a bunch of weight, it works fantastically. It also teaches you about your relationship with hunger. I think a lot of people will like, oh, I'm hungry, I have to eat. Well, do you? Because people have never really actually explored that relationship with hunger. And what's really interesting about a fast is that, you get hungry and then you don't eat and then the hunger goes away. And most people have never actually experienced that. Now, me personally, I don't fast. Very few clients will I recommend to fast. But if you are very high willpower and you want to explore that, as either a weight loss strategy or for shits and giggles, it's a very interesting thing. So yeah, I recommend it. If you've never gone an extended period without eating, it's a really interesting experience.
How long is a long period of not eating? What would you say that would be?
I think you can learn a lot about yourself by fasting for 12 hours. That's where I think the cognitive benefits really start of oh, I'm hungry, but I don't eat, and then the hunger goes away, and I kind of understand, my relationship with hunger better. I know some people have done 5-day fasts, and that sounds terrible.
That's so long.
Mostly because when you do that, it really impacts your ability to exercise as well. And I feel like a nutrition strategy that's helping you to lose weight shouldn't drastically impact your ability to exercise. This is my same problem with a lot of those ultra low calorie diets where they actually recommend don't exercise because your body has so little fuel. Exercising will make the situation worse. I'm like, that's
not good.
No, that's not
dangerous, to be honest.
Yes, agreed.
Okay, so John wants to know, any thoughts on protein shakes in cans / juice boxes, or replacement or supplement?
Yeah, love protein shakes. As a meal replacement, it works. Also, protein just to get protein for protein's sake. I'm trying to use the word protein a little bit less, but I use them all the time. I use them especially post-workout. I'll use them when I'm having just a lower protein day and I need to kick it up a little bit. One of the tools that I talk to clients about all the time is what I call a protein to calorie ratio, because not all protein is created the same. Let's say New York strip has a better protein to calorie ratio than prime rib does, fairly significantly. And what I try and get people to move towards is for every 100 calories, if we can get 10 grams of protein in that meal, you will crush it. Now, it doesn't mean it has to be every single meal, but if you
Sure.
can do that for like half your meals, you'll be doing amazing. And then the
Ooh.
other part is fiber as well. So obviously, like bananas don't have a whole lot of protein in, so they don't satisfy the protein calorie requirement. But they do have a decent amount of fiber. And what I tell people is that if we can get about 3 grams of fiber for every 100 calories, that also kind of facilitates the weight loss process through fullness and gut health as well. Gut health's an interesting one. There's lots of people making lots of claims about it. I don't know that we have enough concrete evidence to be able to say definitely this with gut health, but eating more fiber is never a bad thing.
Yeah, I would think not. Okay. Can I grab the sword and shield for this one? All right. So we got TG is the one that says, "Hello, guys. What does Alex think of the latest warnings on alcohol by the U.S. government?" Thank you.
Wonderful question. I'll be honest, and I'm going to be a little bit embarrassed here and say I'm not exactly sure what the latest warnings are.
It came out like 2 days ago or something.
Okay, cool. If you could like in the chat put what they are, I would be happy to give feedback on it.
Okay. Yeah, that'd probably be best. That way we get the exact wording than just us guessing.
Yeah. I will say this. Generally, the government doesn't do a great job when it comes to health recommendations. Anyone who remembers the food pyramid?
Yeah, that worked out awesome for all of us, didn't it? Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
you can normally judge it based on the results. Like the food pyramid was terrible, and there's so much lobbying that goes into healthcare recommendations,
It's all bullshit.
and so much money behind it
Mhm.
that it's tough to trust a whole lot. It's exhausting. It's tough to trust anything in the healthcare space because I'll share a story with you guys. Like some of the people here might watch the Andrew Huberman podcast. I think his first name's Andrew. Last name's definitely Huberman. And it started really cool because he gave some really great advice. Unfortunately, he realized what a lot of other people in the fitness industry realized, which was once you get certain foundational pieces in place, it's not that complicated. So how do you make a extended podcast talking about the same 6 areas of health?
Sure.
Well, you can't. So what do? You go into really micro nuanced areas of health and make them seem way more important than they are. So there's like certain neurotransmitters that get a ton of, attention. And in reality, it's like, just eat a bit better, walk some more and exercise. It's a little more complicated than that, but not that much more complicated than that. Like my job is not explaining some unbelievably complicated concepts. It's helping people apply those concepts to their life in the easiest way possible.
Okay. All right. So TJ01 says, or sorry, TG, increasing labeling on drinks, major link to cancer, 1 to 2 drinks per week.
Okay, so that's really interesting. So here's what I would say to that. If you are the average American, which by definition, most people are, right? And we're, as a nation, overweight, potentially, severely overweight, sedentary, massive intake of processed food. Yep. If you do all of those things and then put alcohol on top of that, we're not going to have some great health outcomes there.
Alcohol's not the problem. It's all the other shit you put before it.
Alcohol is a problem, but in the grand scheme of things, when done, call it 5 to 7 drinks a week, it's not the main problem.
Right. So exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and it's a problem you can buffer against.
Yeah, so it doesn't help when you're adding the alcohol on for sure. But yeah, if you're getting there and you're doing well between there, it's not going to be causing the issues of that.
Exactly.
I'll be more concerned
about you are of healthy weight, relatively active, like actually a chronic problem across America is people being under-muscled, like not having enough muscle mass. And this really shows up when people get to about 60 years old. All of a sudden, people are way more frail, way more sarcopenic. And having muscle is just a great equalizer when it comes to all of this. But if you drink a lot of alcohol and all of the other aspects of your health suck, there is
not going to be good.
Definitely going to be links to cancer and all of that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I would agree that, like I said, they're just talking about the soy and the pea and all the other weird proteins out there. Do you think like, real protein is the best, meats and things like the best, safest choices and legumes and things like that?
Good question. So when it comes to type of protein, I think it's probably one of those areas of science that has probably been overblown in terms of how important it is.
Okay.
If you are getting, my general recommendation is 0.7 grams of protein per pound of goal body weight.
Okay.
So if you are 250 pounds and you want to be 200 pounds, multiply that by 0.7, we end up at 140. That is a realistic goal for a lot of people.
Okay.
Whether you get that all from animal sources, all from peas, all from legumes, all from soy, unless it like there's some science a while back that like if you have a massively high soy intake, it can cause certain estrogenic effects in men. But again, that was like a small thing that got overblown. And realistically, who is getting all of their protein from soy? I don't know anyone.
Doesn't sound like fun either. That sounds gross.
Yeah, it's like, okay, cool. Tofu, like for every single meal all the time.
No
Yeah.
thanks.
So, yeah, type of protein doesn't make as much of a difference as total protein intake. Realistically, people just aren't eating enough protein in general.
That makes
Because
sense.
if you're not thinking about it kind of strategically, it's hard to do accidentally.
Interesting. That makes sense because most quick foods obviously have no protein or very little. It's just mostly carbs and sugar and things like that.
Yes. Same thing with, fast food. Like, actually, one of the places I recommend to clients all the time is Chick-fil-A.
Oh, okay. That's my next question is what's a fast food that's actually decent in protein?
Yes. I would choose Chick-fil-A over Salad and Go almost every time.
Interesting.
Here's the logic behind that. If you go to Chick-fil-A and you order a crispy or grilled chicken sandwich, somehow there's not that much difference between them in calories. It's going to be about, and I'm doing this off of memory, so you're going to forgive me if the numbers are a little bit off. I think the sandwich is 420 calories and I'm going to go with 29 grams of protein. So it doesn't really hit that 100 to 10 ratio that I look for, but it's not bad. Instead of getting waffle fries, which is an extra 420 calories, if you instead get the grilled nuggets as a side, you can get out of Chick-fil-A for 500 calories. Well, yeah, 550 calories, 50 grams of protein, which is really good. You know where you can't get a meal like that? Salad and Go.
Yeah, I would imagine not. I mean, almost impossible. There's no way. And it'll cost a fortune.
Yes. Now, having said that, salad and go is not a bad option. Like, I don't want to shit on salads. That's better than, the double junior cheeseburger at Sonic or something like that. But it's just one of those things where knowing specifically what menu items at which restaurants are the best goes a long way to helping you plan. Like one of the tasks I have, my clients do is we'll have like a note on their phone. And it said, like, what's your 5 favorite, fast food places that you frequent? And we'll go and make what are the 2 or 3 best options at each of those places.
Okay, that's cool. That's good.
And like a lot of this is just proactive with a little bit of knowledge, beating, reactive. I'll get what sounds good because, if you just live life kind of winging it meal to meal, you're at the mercy of the sights, the smells, the pretty waitress that recommends the special, like all of these external like factors that are not helping and probably hurting.
Yeah, makes total sense. Okay. John wants to know, as for muscle building, it used to be 1 ounce protein per pound body mass. Is that okay?
So that sounds very similar to 1 gram of protein per pound body weight. If that's what you're asking, yes, that's still fine. It's very hard to have an upper limit on protein. Protein is so satiating that it's hard to eat protein to the point where it becomes a problem. The one caveat to that is if you have pre-existing kidney disease, talk to your doctor about a very high protein intake. Just because that might cause renal problems, but it might still be worth it anyway. But the 1 ounce of 1 ounce of protein per pound body mass. If that's what he actually meant by that, that's a lot of protein.
Okay.
because that, like, for a 200-pound person, that would be 200 ounces, which I think is probably. So I think, John, you may have meant 1 gram of protein per
I'm
pound of
assuming you're
mass.
probably right. It probably
In which
is.
case, that's totally fine. It's probably more than what most people need to see significant success. But there's nothing wrong with that. It's like you only need a 90 to get an A. If you want to get 100%, you can, but it's still an A.
Right.
That would be my analogy for that.
Okay. Beer kept the Egyptians alive. That's true, Jose. It did. How do you feel about beef jerky? Is that good for you, bad for you, or
Love it? One of my favorite road snacks, something I recommend, something I keep in my house all the time. One of the things that freaks people out about beef jerky is the sodium content. And I wouldn't recommend an ultra high sodium content. But the problem that we get with the sodium is it's a lot of correlation versus causation.
Okay.
If you look at the average overweight person's diet, very high in sodium. Why?
True.
Because they're eating a lot of processed food, and processed food has very high sodium intake in it. So if you are, weight loss is really the result of calories in and calories out. I think most people are aware of that at this point. If you are eating less calories and you are high in protein and you're eating some fruit and you're eating some veggies, some occasional high sodium foods are going to be probably just fine. If you only eat ready meals and potato chips and then also beef jerky, then yeah, maybe total sodium becomes a problem.
Sure.
But I think there's much bigger fish to fry than sodium intake personally. Like, I would fix calories first, protein second, fruit, veggies, and fiber intake next, and then you can worry about sodium after that.
Oh, so it's pretty low. If you're doing the other things, it's not that huge of a deal then. Okay, that's good to know. Okay, says, can you ask about heart rate for cardio to promote heart health? I'm doing 10,000 steps per day, but also walking a treadmill to get to a mid 120 beats per minute. I'm a 38-year-old male.
Cool. So that's a really good question. First thing I would recommend, if you want to improve any aspect of your health, getting to a healthy weight is the single best thing you can do. In terms of cardio for heart health, a lot of people talk about zones, and they've often said that zone 2 cardio is the best for heart health. But in reality, almost any cardio is going to improve heart health. Whether you do high intensity interval training, great for heart health, kind of sucks while you do it, leaves you feeling like you're going to vomit. But if that's something that you wake up and get out of bed for, be my guest, not me. But yeah, like low intensity, steady state stuff that gets your heart rate into zone 2, what that number is will depend on a few different things, age being one of them. We could go through a screen share, but if you just look up like what zone 2 heart rate is, it'll tell you. So yeah, that's what I would say to that one. Aim for zone 2, 30 minutes, 3 times a week, and that'll be great. But the single best thing you can do for your heart is remove body fat from like your system, basically.
Okay. How do you feel about Panda Express?
Can be very good. Can be just like any fast food place. If you get the worst things on the menu, it's going to be a calorie bomb. But honestly, Panda is probably one of the better places. One of the tricks, if you are like wanting to get in better shape, like it sounds corny, but doing like steamed rice over fried rice saves you about 350 calories.
Wow. That's a big difference.
It's a big difference. Most of that
are we talking like the white rice versus the stuff that's called the veggies and stuff? And is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. So when you go in there, you'll see it. They'll have like steamed white rice, which is like, boiled white rice or whatever you make at home. And you basically just rely on the source of the protein to flavor that rice versus white rice that's been steamed, left for a day, and then thrown in a wok with a bunch of, veggies and an egg, but also a crap ton of oil.
That is the problem.
That's the problem. That's where the extra calories come from.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not 300 calories of veggie. It's 300 calories of soybean oil or canola oil or something like that.
Okay. Jose wants to know, do you have a cat? Is that a litter box in the background?
Yes, I have a cat. That is her litter box. She is currently locked in the bedroom because she likes to be on my lap during Zoom calls.
Too funny.
We just don't have another place for the litter box, so I get to deal with it in my office.
I understand. What's your cat's name?
Charlotte.
Charlotte. Okay.
She's a long hair spicy bitch is her official designation.
Yeah, we have a Midnight, and she's a fat fuck. That cat is just lazy as shit. She's a great cat, but she's lazy as crap. Oh, I'm drinking the 14-year Old Fitz, Andy. That's what I'm drinking. Good, always a solid choice. High sodium, drink more water is key. That probably seems valid.
Actually, that's a good point. When we think about like electrolytes, what are the two major electrolytes? Sodium and potassium. So like context is very dependent, right?
Yeah.
Like fast food, all of a sudden sodium's a bad thing. But if you want to rehydrate, then all of a sudden sodium is a good thing.
Okay.
But that's when I say, like there's lots of other things to take care of before you worry about sodium intake. And this is another point, like exercise is a great equalizer for everything health-wise. Like it's truly the tide that lifts all boats. Because if you have a high sodium intake, but you exercise and you sweat a little bit, well, guess what? You're going to be sweating out some of those electrolytes that you then replace in your high sodium diet. So yeah, it's just exercise and lift weights. It sucks to get started, but it does wonders.
I would imagine so. How do you feel? So Ben D. Manager says he switched from going to fast food to eating beef jerky. Is that seems like a healthier, but maybe only once a week? Is that a good choice? I would assume it.
Yeah, I would do it. I mean, shoot, I have no issue. Again, context is important depending on what the rest of your diet looks like. I would have no issue with a serving of beef jerky 5 times a week.
Okay.
Like it's a great snack. It's low calorie. It's high protein. Very little fat. Should you be
concerned about the fat content inside of beef jerky just to wonder, or is it really not that big of a deal if you're...
It's really not that big of a deal.
Okay. Because I love beef jerky and rather eat that than like candy and other crap. Just because, like you said, it doesn't have the sugar. It doesn't have the carbs and the other garbage in it.
The best way to look at it is if you look at the label of something and you look at the calories, you look at the protein, it will give you a good idea of its like leanness score, basically. So most jerky is like 80 to 100 calories per serving and probably 10 to 12 grams of protein.
Okay.
So it's actually better than my kind of like ratio that we are going for.
All right.
So, yeah.
Is there a particular brand you think is better than others, or they're all more or less equal?
More or less the same. The one caveat, which is unfortunate because it's delicious, so I just have it in smaller amounts. The Korean style sweet and spicy jerky that you can get at Costco, stuff is like crack. It's amazing. But it doesn't quite hit the ratios, so I just try and eat it in smaller portions. Like, I think a serving's, I don't know, 120 calories, and you get like 9 grams of protein, which is still better than the vast majority of snacks out there.
Sure.
Not quite as good as your, Jack Link's peppered jerky.
Yeah, I like that those Duke Links, I think they're good.
Yeah.
Let's see. Pizza Willa says, I think my doctor's your cousin. Is this at Massachusetts General Hospital? Is that the one you're talking about, Pizza Willa? If so, then probably so. Sodium is the key to less flavor in professional kitchens. If you eat out regularly anywhere, there's lots of McDonald's with 3 servings. That's true. That is valid point on salt. Most is just changing the flavor of food. Being
and if you want to make your broccoli taste good, douse that thing in salt.
Yeah.
Salt is 0 calories.
No, that is a valid point. Okay, yeah, Pizza Willa. Yeah, I assume you're talking about my cousin Wesley. I'm sure that's probably what you're talking about. Dr. Dutton. Let's see here. Electrolytes and Brando's electrolytes. Yeah, that's true. That works. Let's see. Mr. Mom says, I use bottom round or eye round roast to make my jerky. Occasionally chuck roast and trim off all excess fat. Also make venison jerky. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, venison's incredibly lean.
I do like venison.
All of that sounds good. Steak is one of those things where there's pretty high variance. I think, like I talked about it earlier, like prime ribeye, delicious, not the leanest kind of steak in the world. Whereas New York strip, fillets, all of the rounds are pretty good, but they don't make great grill steaks. Normally it's a jerky or stew scenario.
The Old Fitz is fantastic, Jose. It is the original. It's 14-year from the distillery, only back from 2018. It's quite great. Well, Jose, you come see me at the castle. I'm sure we can probably make that happen.
I'm going to see if I can join Jose for that because that sounds dang good.
Absolutely. What else should people know about your business in general?
Oh, good question. I only work with people inside the US
Okay.
as of right now, but I do work with anyone across the US. So
Okay.
I'm currently working with people in Washington, Florida, the Northeast. I'm fairly Dallas centric just because that's where I live.
Yeah. That
And I
makes
meet a
sense.
lot of
Yeah.
people in person, but no, it's a 100% online. Um, there's varying levels of service.
Sure.
So I've got something that matches most budgets if people are looking for help.
Okay.
And yeah, I try to make sure everything has kind of science base. Hopefully that comes across in how I explain things. But
Yeah.
a little bit of fun foreshadowing before I actually started Whiskey Weight Loss. I was doing my master's degree at the University of North Texas in Denton, and I had to choose a subject for my master's thesis.
Okay.
Well, the lab that I was doing my thesis at had a concentration in alcohol science. So we decided to
All right.
look at the effect of hangover on exercise performance.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
it's actually published. So you can go and find
Oh,
it.
it's
Um,
fantastic.
just type in Shaw et al. And then alcohol afterwards, and it'll probably pop up.
Okay. Very
But that was all
cool.
before Whiskey Weight Loss. So some fun universe foreshadowing there.
There you go. What are your thoughts on Gatorade? Is it good or is it a gimmick, or what do you think about Gatorade?
Good question. It depends what you're using it for. So
Okay.
if you are an athlete that needs to recover between two, sporting events, and you need to
Hmm.
be at your best peak performance for that second event, full sugar Gatorade is fantastic. It's going to help you recover
Okay.
faster so that you are ready for that. Like if you were playing in a Sunday five-a-side soccer league, something like that, and you had a game, and then you had an hour's break, and then you had another game, drink all of the Gatorade you can.
Okay.
Sugar-free Gatorade is honestly great for hangover prevention and hangover cure. The vast majority of the effects of hangover come from dehydration. So
Right.
if you can get fluid and electrolytes in your system, then that is going to help. I actually DIY my own Gatorade because I drink it so much it becomes like cost prohibitive to
Yeah,
buy
I would
regular stuff.
imagine.
But if you just buy if you buy potassium salt off of Amazon and you get table salt, which is sodium, and then I put I have a ratio of those two, and then I put some stevia in there.
Yeah.
I just put a couple of scoops of that in 16 ounces of water, a little bit of orange water flavoring. Boom, Gatorade, and it costs like 20 cents,
That's
which
way
is
cheaper
way cheaper.
because
Way
Gatorade is
cheaper. Like I'm
easy
not against
expensive.
paying for value, but that's just makes me
Yeah.
hurt when you pay like $3 for a bottle of Gatorade. So
Mm,
once we get done with this, Matt, I will go and chug one of those, and I will
there
make
you
another
go.
one. I will put it on my nightstand. So inevitably, when I get up at 3 a.m. to pee, and fluid goes out, fluid goes in right
Solid.
afterwards, and I'll be ready to be everyone's ray of sunshine in the morning.
There you go. That makes sense. How do you feel about diet soda?
Love it. Now,
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend 6 a day,
Yeah, that's
but
probably not
if
good.
you had to choose between full sugar soda and diet soda, absolutely choose the diet soda. The
Okay.
other thing I like too, sometimes we get to the end of a day and we want an adult drink, but maybe alcohol is not the best idea for
Sure.
whether it's calories, whether it's, impact on your next day, whatever it is, whether maybe it's dry January. At that point, Diet Coke or specifically for me, I get the old people caffeine-free Diet Coke, and that's my weekday. I
Okay.
don't want whiskey for energy reasons, but I want something that isn't water or coffee.
Makes
So
sense.
that's what I use Diet Cokes for, or I use it for like a little bit of a pick me up. Like if it's like 3:30, 4 p.m. and I don't want like a full cup of coffee's worth of
Yeah.
caffeine, I'll grab a Diet Coke, like caffeine full Diet Coke, and I'll use it there. So call
Okay.
it strategic diet soda usage.
Sure. Makes sense. What about how do you feel about Pedialyte?
Pedialyte's great. Nothing wrong with it. It's high electrolyte fluids.
Okay.
Nothing
Those are
magical
mostly for
about it.
children, though, as far as I know.
Say again?
It's mostly for children, though, right? Pedialyte, not like for like little kids.
I don't know. I've never drank it myself, but I think it's a
Okay.
rehydration solution. I think it
Okay.
gets that reputation because when your kids get diarrhea
They
and
give
you're
them that,
obviously losing
right?
a lot of fluids, you
Okay.
pump them back in with that. But adults can have it too. But realistically, rehydration comes down to volume of fluid plus electrolytes to make that fluid stay in your system.
Makes sense.
So again, if that was the case, I would just make my own.
There you go. Mr. Ross says, I'm 64, 65, right? So I've been drinking since I was 18, legal at age of Texas in the 70s. I've never had a hangover in my life. That's awesome, Mr. Mom. I am glad you've never had
happy
one
for you
they
and
suck.
very jealous.
So here's a good question. So Dustin wants to know, how many shots before a good squat day? Asking for a friend.
Professionally, since this is being recorded, I can't recommend taking shots before squats.
I think not.
But hypothetically, I would probably keep it to less than one. Maybe just give you some of that liquid courage if it's a squat day. Just make sure you have spotters, please.
Yeah, for real. That could end very poorly. Peter
Yes.
is told to check at the liquor source. Okay, that's fair, Dustin. Says Ronnie Coleman started winning by taking a few shots of vodka before shows to dry him up. Okay.
Fair enough. Now, Ronnie Coleman's an interesting individual because he's widely regarded as one of the best bodybuilders ever. I don't know that taking a few shots of vodka was the reason he won. I think his insane genetics, unbelievable work ethic, and massive amounts of drugs probably contributed more than the vodka.
I would think.
Maybe it was his secret. I don't know. But if you ever seen a video of Ronnie Coleman, like, dude is just beasting out all the time. Like, I've never seen a rep of him not trying 110%. And to get that big requires A, insane genetics and a lot of drugs, but B, just a love for being in constant pain during your workout.
Yeah. So, I mean, you need that courage before you step under 500 pounds. It might be true, Dustin.
Facts.
2% that pushed him over. Okay, and then TG01 says, I came on late, but can you briefly share the premise of the whiskey weight loss diet plan?
Okay, yeah, we did cover this earlier, so you can absolutely go back and get the full version, from the start of the show. But general premises is this: people who try to lose weight often have to give up a lot of the things that makes life somewhat enjoyable. And they lose weight, which is fantastic, but then they realize life sucks, so they go back to the way they used to eat, and then all of the weight comes back, and often even a little bit more as well. Instead, the right approach is to optimize nutrition and exercise for weight loss while still leaving some room for the things that make life fun, just like whiskey. Like, realistically, I could have a business named Chocolate Cake Weight Loss or Wine Weight Loss.
Sure.
It all kind of works the same, but it's creating space for the stuff that we enjoy, that makes life worth living, that makes it sustainable, while simultaneously optimizing the other 90, 80% for weight loss, and understanding how to do that, and also understanding what that looks like for someone as an individual. I used this example earlier when talking with Matt, but a real estate agent, a stay-at-home mom, and a 9-to-5 office worker lead very different lives. And understanding what the appropriate nutrition strategies and exercise strategies for those people are goes a long way to seeing how they succeed. It's like, there's a billion diet plans and a billion, workout plans on the internet. You don't have to pay very much money to get them or anything, but you want to know that it's the right plan for you. And it's very hard to tell that if you don't have someone with an expert eye kind of looking over it for you.
Makes sense. Jose says, why not call it weight loss and whiskey? What made you choose the name you chose for your company?
Whiskey weight loss just rolls off the tongue really well.
Fair. Makes sense.
Like, at some point, you do have to be a business and do marketing stuff, and just whiskey weight loss
that is easy. Good. Yeah. Because whiskey and weight is too long. Yeah, it makes total sense. I like that plan. Okay. Say, this guy's in on, you know why this isn't the advice we normally hear, because it's not tag-worthy on social media. You're only seeing advice that's controversial and normal. Well, that's true.
Dude, you are 100% correct. And it's why a lot of personal trainers and fitness coaches get out of the industry, because they have a message that, they believe in, but it doesn't grab people's attention because it isn't controversial. Like, people love controversy. It's what sells. And we probably wouldn't be having this conversation if my business wasn't called Whiskey Weight Loss. Two things that are not supposed to go together. There's a reason. I told you I wasn't Dr. Smart, but I'm there. So you got to choose something that creates interest and intrigue, and then you actually deliver the evidence-backed, scientific, real-life, kind of weight loss advice behind it. So you need to show us how you drink your whiskey on a Bosu ball with a weighted vest. If I had my weighted vest and Bosu ball, which I have at the studio, at least half a space out of, I would 100% do that.
Well, you have to do a short or something like that for your
I'll
your
have
show.
to.
That would be hilarious, and we'll have to point Dustin to that. That'd be quite great. Come with the castle, just working on some events, Andy. It's the beginning of the year. It's been, of course, Christmas and all that fun stuff. So I don't have any specific things coming up, but I'll get you guys that as soon as we have it. And yes, the best of 2024 is coming soon, so we'll let you guys know. It says no charge when you put this on your Instagram as a promo. It's a good idea, though. It's a good idea.
That's a great idea. It's a great idea.
I know you probably got to go here in a minute. So what else? Anything else people should know? Or we can let you go, as I know it's getting late and you have an early morning with your clients and all that.
I do have an early morning with clients. If you want to find more of my stuff, you're intrigued, then I have a website, whiskeyweightloss.com, and all of my social stuff lives on my personal Facebook profile. I am not. Well, I have an Instagram. I'm not very active on it. Like Meta will automatically post my Facebook stuff to Instagram. But if you just type in facebook.com/whiskeyweightloss, or you can go to Matt's friends list and you can find Alex Shaw, ALEXSHAW. You can find me that way. I'm pretty friendly, I like to think. I post most days, some written stuff, some video stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Not a whole lot else there.
As Andy Weight Loss drinks the castle. He's been to the castle before, been on an event before, and went over there. I know we're going to do this with his other entity you lead. We'll do an event with them in May, is what we're looking at doing, so that should be a good time. So lots of fun stuff. So his final team question, team what? I don't.
Oh, Israel. Oh, Israel, obviously.
Okay.
100%.
Some weighted shot glasses and mugs. There you go. Eating dinosaur legs and sheep testicles. Sure, I'm sure that'll be amazing, Donald. All that good fun stuff. See, the only thing else I got from me for you guys, and we'll just head off here in a second, is on Wednesday at 5 o'clock, I'm over on Tim Young's show. That's going to be over on X, so check out Tim Young and X at 5 o'clock, and then we'll do some more promos for that here in the next couple of days for you guys. Alex, thank you much. This was fantastic. Really appreciate you being there. You stick around for a second. I'm going to sign off to everybody, and we'll see everybody else next week. Cheers.
Cheers.